Now, many farmers are losing their lands to rich and powerful groups and organizations, a situation that poses significant threat to the country's food security. The observation made by the non-profit, non-governmental organization Colandef could result in food shortages and hikes in food prices, as farmers will be without land to cultivate their produce. Some farmers have been speaking about this situation to the head of our agric desk, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, looking at how farmers are themselves now hungry because their livelihoods have been taken away for a pittance. This report was filed from Akyem Breman, a village in the eastern region.
Somewhere 2 years ago, one of my communities called Akyem Breman reported to me that their farms have been destroyed by traditional rulers, saying that they want the land to be used for rubber plantation. Initially, they disagreed, and they told them that they will use those land that has not been planted with cocoa trees, and they agreed. Later on, they realized that they have been encroached their farms. Those farms who are not supposed to be cut down, forcibly, they use grader to put all these cocoa trees down. They haven't been paid, and even the price that they are about to pay, they didn't negotiate with them, so they are angry. I came there with the help of my CEA. I realized that it was a true. Therefore, we call on, and you have came in for an interview. So these are my community members.
The anger that has built up in this community as a result of the destruction of their cocoa trees is beyond measure. They have been growing the pod for more than 70 years. 3 years ago, officials of the Ghana Rubber Estates Limited, GREL, came to the community with claims that the land has been sold to them for the purpose of establishing rubber plantations. More than 2,000 acres of cocoa farms belonging to about 150 farmers were brought down to make way for rubber plantations. They are not happy.
They destroyed the cocoa trees at a time we were not expecting.
55-year-old Kwesi Akwa is the father of 5. He also lost his 5-acre farm. He made a criminal case by reporting the matter to the police, but no progress has been made with the investigations.
Now I'm suffering. My children have dropped out of school. Now how can we survive in this town without the cocoa? It is as if they want to drive us out of the town.
Blankton of Fair came to the community when government started the Youth in Cocoa program. His 1.5-acre cocoa farm was destroyed. He doesn't understand why traditional leaders agreed to hand over lands that had been used for cocoa farming over the years to the rubber growers.
We don't have money. We are not getting food from anywhere. They have destroyed our plantain, yam, and other foods. They say the Ochene made all the arrangements, and they were giving us 7,100 cedis for each acre of cocoa. Then they will destroy the trees for life. We will not allow this to happen.
Kofi Ofe is another such victim of the destruction. He lost his 3-acre cocoa farm. He tells me on the day the cocoa farm was demolished, he had thoughts of killing whoever did it.
I could have shot the person responsible for the destruction when I went to the farm to see what had happened. I was very troubled. Now I'm a pauper. I had to go for 1,500 cedis loan to take care of my sick child. How would I be able to pay? So I am suffering.
For a community which depends solely on cocoa farming, the destruction of these farms have affected every household. Everyone has a tale of pain to share. Yas Sekina has been a cocoa farmer for many years. Her farm has been her only form of income. Today, the 2-acre farm has been destroyed.
2 acres. I bet 2 acres.
I had a 2-acre cocoa farm. Now the trees are down.
No money.
All my 4 children have been sent home from school because I don't have money to pay fees. Government should intervene.
Their demand is simple, that government gives back their lands to them so they can possibly replant their cocoa. Samuel Tay Esa is a leader of the youth group here that is into cocoa farming.
Ochiene is in support of the demolition of the cocoa.
I have 2.5 acre.
I had a 4-acre farm which was destroyed. How will I be able to recover from this? We beg President Ekufu.
That was a report put together by head of the Agri Desk, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Well, there's a law being prepared to help deal with this and other land acquisition related problems. In the studio with me is Nana Mahira. She's the executive director and founder of the Community Land and Development Foundation. Community Land and Development Foundation. She'll help us have a conversation about this. She's actually her organization that has actually done a lot of work in this area from which Joseph Opoku Gakpo reported. Nanama, welcome to the studio once again, and thank you very much for coming. So let's begin with the work you've done in this particular area and find out what you have. What sort of information do you have in addition to what we have just put out there? How bad is the situation?
It's terribly bad. It's terribly bad because the issue of land-based acquisition for investments is occurring all over the country. And it's occurring in such a manner that many local farmers in local communities are being dispossessed of the activities of the land they are engaged with and being driven away
out of the land.
From the...
So what I want us to focus on is for you to tell us the result. I mean, what did you find when you were working in this area?
Yes. So just like what we saw in the story, a number of issues can be outlined. This is a very good case study to reflect what is happening as far as land-based investments in Ghana are concerned. One of the fundamental issues is the dispossession. And when we say dispossession, what we mean is that in Ghana, you know, we have different types of land rights. And the type of rights you have, to some extent, is almost perpetual in some cases if you are an indigene. And even if you are not an indigene and you are a migrant to a particular area, you may have occupied the land and are using it for a number of activities over a period of time. Let's say you have it for 50 years. If you have it for 50 years and at the moment, some acquisition has been done for investments, it means that whatever number of years that is unexpired on that term has been truncated. And it is truncated in such a way that you do not have any say in as to whether you consent to the acquisition or not. Okay,
let's take the specific case of these farmers. Their lands were taken away from them. I mean, how does that even happen? Explain for us so we can have a better understanding.
So when it comes to land acquisition in Ghana, what happens is that most of the lands are in the hands of the customary authorities, the chiefs, the family heads, and so on and so forth. They are custodians of the overall interest in the land. So whoever is occupying a portion of the land is occupying that portion upon permission by these chiefs or traditional leaders. But the interest or the type of rights that these individuals have acquired is also recognized by the law. So if you are a chief and you own or you have custody of a large area of land, and other people are existing on the land based on that ownership you, a chief, has given, that kind of right given is supposed to be, the holders of that right
should take into consideration the rights of the others,
exactly.
which in this case are the farmers.
Exactly. So a chief has the right to bring in investors, good. But a chief would be able to go on and conclude any agreement with any investor based on the consent that has been achieved from the local farmers. The reason is that those farmers have done some investments on the land. Some of them were saying they are cocoa farmers, oil palm farmers, and so on and so forth. So those investments are investments that these people live on a day-to-day basis. So much as the custody, the rights that is held by the chief is bigger, it does not in any way supersede the rights that these farmers hold. And so the right process is that if an investor approaches a chief for any land for investments, and the size of land required will require that many existing landholders would have to be, driven off to give way for the investments, there has to be consultations.
So let's take this situation. We understand from the story that we just played that some of them got about 7,100 cedis. And would you say that is appropriate compensation?
Yeah. So again, that is difficult to say because measuring the figure 7,500 out of
7,100.
It's difficult to say because the parameters for calculating compensation, there are a number of things. One of it is a type of crop you have on the land. Another is a type of interest you hold on the land, and many other factors, the kind of dispossession that you have been affected by. So all these factors go into determining how much compensation is to be paid to an individual. But the problem is that it is not just even the amount. The process of even assessing the crops that has been affected and engaging with the farmers so that they understand the process and participate accordingly.
That is not happening.
It's not happening.
So from what you're saying, my understanding is that now what's happening is that the chiefs will have an investor, and the chiefs will go ahead and have a negotiation with the investor as to how much they want to pay for the land. And the investor will go ahead and conduct that transaction with the chief without recourse to the farmers who are working on this land. And in any case, when the farmers are contacted, they sometimes do not have the chiefs sometimes do not have the consent to go ahead with the transaction, but they will.
Some don't even seek consent in the first place. So you as a farmer will be there, and then you will hear from the community people talking about, oh, there is some investor around coming to do something. You don't even know. In some cases, you wake up one morning, go to your farm, and things are happening on your farm.
So in this case, when you wake up and find that things are happening on your farm, and someone approaches you and says, take this money, and they give you 7,100, and you take it, how difficult does it make for you to go through the law to correct the process?
So what should happen is that, and currently, you mentioned the land bill. Well, so it's still in the process of being passed. We haven't gotten the final accent.
Where are we now with that?
Well, so I think there has been a lot of consultations with Parliament, the Select Committee. And so it has to go to the floor of the House for the discussions. And then once it passes through that stage, it will go for final accent. But what the Lands Commission has currently, which is an administrative procedure they have put in place, is what they call the Lands Commission Guidelines on Large-Scale Land Acquisition. This guidelines is supposed to put in place checks and balances for such acquisitions, so that if any farmer is affected by any such transaction, the Lands Commission processes should be able to help check and mitigate some of these impacts. Unfortunately, that is not happening. So
why is that not happening? Well, what's happening at the Lands Commission? So someone is sleeping at the Lands Commission?
Exactly. And it's so much of a worry, because these guidelines have been there for some time now. In fact, more than 5 years now. At least we have come to know of it for more than 5 years now. And there have been discussions. Even we ourselves as Colandef, we have done a review of the guidelines and have presented some suggestions to improve these guidelines so that if for nothing at all, there will be procedures to help mitigate some of these things. But nothing is happening. The worst of it is that sometimes, even when an investor goes through the process with all the due diligence in place and the investment the land acquisition goes through successfully, there are commitments that investors make to communities. And we, as a country, should monitor the commitments. But nobody is monitoring.
So the investors go in, they move on to the land, they take the lands from the farmers, and that's it.
And that's it. We have current cases that we, Colandef, facilitated in the northern region. And we facilitated the acquisition for this investor, doing all that is needed to ensure that communities give consent, communities understand the project, they know what is in it for them, they know what procedures have to be followed to be able to get compensation for what they have lost. And the process went on very well. Once it is done and the acquisition has been sealed, investment activities go on. Then there should be monitoring. So we have EPA that should be monitoring certain aspects. There is the Lands Commission that is to be monitoring. There is a planning department, but nothing. And so the investors renege on these commitments, and communities are left hanging without any cause for redress. And it is a big worry for our country.
And I'm wondering how the bill you speak about will help address this. You say that it's at the committee level at the moment. I mean, we know...
So the committee has done its review of it. In fact, we were part of it.
Okay.
I must say that they really opened it up. So some of us were involved in reading every bit of the bill.
Okay.
But it has to go to the floor for the floor to also...
And per your rough calculations, this will take how long?
Well, so as at the last meeting, when we met with the select committee, they were saying that by the middle of this year, it has to pass.
Well, hopefully it passes, because we know about how laws, can grow and become teenagers in Parliament.
See, it is even beyond the passing of the law.
It's beyond
about the agency that is responsible for administering land in this country.
The Lands Commission.
The Lands Commission.
So we need to get some answers from the Lands Commission. Well, along the line, I'm not sure if you'll be able to raise the Lands Commission at the moment, but along the line in the week, in the course of our programming, we should be able to get some responses. But let me come back to find out from before we wrap up, what options are available to these farmers, those that we had, those whose stories we heard in that documentary, that excerpt of the documentary. What are the available options for them going forward?
So one option is that our organization actually takes some of these things up and follow through to help them get some redress. So in some cases, we are able to negotiate with the companies. In some of the, when we have the records and we have evidence of such dispossession, we talk with the companies and we are able to take steps back to correct some of the mistakes that have been done. The other thing is that we have the Lands Commission offices across the 10 regions of the country. We have the Office of Administrator of Two Lands across the 10 regions of the country. Some of these offices in the offices are actually very helpful when it comes to some of these things. So if there is such, there are such issues and communities approach any of the offices in the regions, we ourselves have actually referred a number of cases to some in the Western region, in the Central region, and so on, and they have helped to bring about, an amicable solution to these points. But overall, it should not happen just by chance. What we think is that it has to happen as a matter of course, that we have an institution that is responsible for looking into these issues and helping to mitigate the impact. In fact, helping to prevent these from happening
in the first place.
And the Lands Commission is the state agency responsible for that, and we want to see action.
Okay. Well, would you be able to, would Colandef be able to make a commitment to the people we saw in this story about perhaps looking into their matter and helping them?
Definitely, because we have been to that area already. Actually, we are working within the GREL areas in the Eastern region. So it is something that we can take up and help them seek redress.
That will be very good, and I'm sure they will be immensely grateful to you. Thank you very much, Nanama, for coming. Nanama Yere is the Executive Director of Colandef, and Colandef is basically Community Land and Development Foundation. They are committing, to support these farmers who have been dispossessed of their land, and the details will help them take this matter further. Nanama, thanks for coming once again.